Alright, guys. Welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Last time we left off on chapter 8, which means we have 4 chapters left. And, I want to. Whoa, my desk just shifted. I want to lower the volume just a little bit because I'm not sure how good this headset's quality is going to be. Um, I'm using a different headset than I usually do, so it'll probably sound different. So let's get right into it. Weariness and a headache. Not a very nice way to start the day. What's wrong, Keiichi? You don't look so well. I gotta turn off my phone. When did you go to sleep? It seemed that my mom had noticed my sullen state. Yesterday, I kept on waking up in the middle of the night. Without a doubt, I felt a presence. I felt the presence of someone standing in front of my door. I told myself repeatedly that it was my imagination and forced myself to try and sleep. Except, not being able to stand it, I gathered up my courage and opened the door. Of course, there wasn't anyone there. I think I did this 3 times throughout the night. Or maybe I just didn't remember doing it any more than that. Even though I was able to get the breakfast table without incident, I still didn't feel at ease. It might be a cold. I don't really have an appetite. My, you do seem a little warm. Well, can you make it to school? Technically, I did go to a school, but it was mostly self-study. It wouldn't matter much if I missed a day, would it? It could have been that I hadn't been feeling well for the last few days because I really did have a cold. If I took some medicine and got a good day of rest, I might be able to greet everyone with a smile tomorrow. Ding dong. Startled, I looked back and forth between the entrance and the clock. It was 10 minutes later than when I usually met up with Reina. It was Reina. Reina-chan came to get you. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna take the day off? Reina was a good girl. She might be somewhat quirky, but she was certainly cute. The lunches she made were delicious, and she always looked out for me. Why should I be so scared of something like that? It wasn't Reina's fault. It was probably mine. It had to have been my cold. It just had to be. I'll rest. Sorry. Then I'll go send her off for you. Mom headed off to the door. I would have to pass by the entrance to get back to my room. I didn't have the nerve to meet with Reina, so I wrapped myself in a blanket on the sofa and closed my eyes. I was so sleep deprived, I quickly fell into a deep slumber. I had only intended to lie down for a bit, but it was almost noon when I woke up. I called out to my parents, but they didn't seem to be around. On the table, I found lunch prepared and had a note. Mom and Dad had apparently driven off somewhere far away. It likely had to do with Dad's work. This happens every so often, so it wasn't that unusual. They would probably be back sometime after dinner. On the note, it said, "The insurance card is in the cabinet. Take it and go to the hospital." There were also there was also a well-drawn map to the hospital. That's right. I hadn't been there before, so I didn't know exactly where it was. I had a light lunch, although it was really just leftovers from the morning, and just in case, went to the hospital. Normally, I'd never be here, in the middle of a weekday. Just walking around like this had me feeling guilty. It was an odd feeling. Following my mom's map, I took a road I usually never used. After walking for a bit, the hospital sign came into view. Irie Clinic was written rather stylishly on the sign. The clinic wasn't very big, but based on the scale of the rest of Hinamizawa, it was far too grand. There was a parking lot, and even a reserved spot for buses. They must be making a mint. I spaced out in the air-conditioned waiting room until it was my turn to be seen. My bar-san, please make your way to the examination room. I'm gonna take a sip of my drink real quick. Excuse the noise. Very sorry. After properly answering all of the chatty doctor's questions, he responded with the old, "It's probably a cold." They gave me a shot and 3 days worth of medicine. I thought it was a little overboard, but if it would clear away the gloomy feeling I'd been having lately, then it was worth it. I settled the bill and took a quick trip to the washroom. As I was leaving, I overheard a conversation between some elderly people who seemed to be regulars at the clinic. Of course, I had no intention of eavesdropping. If it just wasn't for that word. Must have been an Onikakushi. I wonder. She was still pretty young. Might have just eloped. With whom? That man from Tokyo who visits every season. The young one with the big camera? Didn't you know they were getting along pretty well? Were they talking about Tomotaki-san? I could feel my ears perking up. I don't know about that, but you have to make preparations before you elope. Leave a note or quit their job or something. It's an elopement because they didn't leave a note or a message. The thought that I'll never see that young nurse's face again makes me rather sad. Takano-san is a very upstanding young woman. Excuse me. She'll be fine wherever she goes. So her name was Takano-san, that woman with Tomotaki-san, and she worked at this clinic? Oyashiro-sama's shadow was following me everywhere I went. I started listening more closely, but they began talking about fishing and it didn't seem like they were going to revisit the topic. I gave up and left. I had to clear my throat, sorry. Thus, even though I was separated from the daily monotony of school, monotony? Is that how you say that? I wasn't able to escape from Oyashiro-sama's shadow. But of course, Oyashiro-sama was the guardian deity of this place, of Hinamizawa. As long as I was in Hinamizawa, I wouldn't be able to escape. Maybe it was because I was walking outside, but my appetite had suddenly returned. I might as well buy a snack with the change from the examination fee on the way home. Contemplating that, I turned onto a familiar street. At that moment, I heard a car horn abruptly honk behind me. Was I really walking so far into the middle of the road that I'd be in a car's way? I moved farther off to the side, but the horn was still honking at me. I turned around, peeved. Maibara-san, good day to you. It was Oishi-san. He stepped out of his car, AC on full blast, and waved at me. What's up today? School on break? Just not feeling well, so I took the day off. I was about to buy lunch and head back home. That's great. I'm just about to get lunch myself. Would you mind going together? If you're not feeling up for it, then don't mind me. I was just gonna lie down after going home anyway, and I didn't really have a cold. I doubt you want to eat at one of those local places. Let's go into town. It's a bit of a drive, is that alright? I know a pretty good place. I'd finally begun to understood Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying things. He probably wanted to talk to me about stuff that would be difficult to discuss while in Hinamizawa. I went with Oishi-san, riding in his frigid car. It was almost as if the bright sunlight outside was a lie. I'm sorry about calling you so late last night. Your parents get angry at you? No. I recalled Rena, who had been listening to the phone conversation all that time, separated by me from me just by the door. Even now, in the brightness of the sunlight, the thought still creeped me out. When a big bump that jolted the car, the road connecting to the city changed from dirt to pavement. My head swiveled back with a sudden realization. That's right. This was where Tomotaki-san died. They've hit a snag on the investigation regarding Tomotaki-san. Uishi-san spoke while peering at me from the corner of his eye. They believe it was caused by hallucinogens, given how he was clawing out his own throat. I had to clear my throat. But a drug that could cause this to happen so suddenly, it's extremely hard to come by. Bear in mind, of course, the autopsy was done with the premise in mind, but we didn't find any leads. Excuse me. Um, you know that thing you see in comics all the time? Where there's a drug that, if you put it in them, it doesn't leave any traces? It exists. Succinylical something or other. Succinylical, I think. I don't know. Well, it's pretty common. But you see, there doesn't seem to be any kind of drug that would cause Toмотaki-san to react like that. Then you're saying the police concluded Toмотaki-san just died from the curse? I couldn't help but feel the police were worthless. I just wanted the idea of a curse to be disassociated from Toмотaki-san's mysterious death. Unfortunately, that's how it looks right now. But putting aside the cause of death, without a doubt, he was surrounded by a group of people and had taken a beating beforehand. That was no curse, but an incident that unquestionably involved other humans. That made me a bit relieved. We passed in front of the rather desolate, but still busier than Hinamizawa, train station. The car pulled into a restaurant parking lot, and I followed Oishi-san into the shop. It was pretty crowded, but there were only adults at this hour. Of course, there wouldn't be any children in here in the middle of a weekday. Two, please, non-smoking. This way, please. When you are ready to order, please call me over. Is this like the silhouette of somebody over here? Oh, I just skipped that on accident. Hold on. We were led by a particularly dressed waitress out to our table. I sat with Oishi-san in the booth. Alright. So, what do you think? Aren't the waitress's outfits here cute? Huh? Well, I guess. This shop is always quite busy. It's more about the waitresses and the food, you see. Hold on, my Face ID on my phone isn't working. Wait a second. There we go. Uh-huh. Uishi-san, you're leering. Hmm? Am I really? However you say that laugh. Dude, that looks good. Regardless of how the waitresses looked, the food was decent enough. Finishing our meals while talking about some inane topic, Oishi-san's after-meal cup of coffee arrived at the table. Yesterday we talked about Hinamizawa's past, didn't we? Yeah, that it was the village of the man-eating demons or something like that. I didn't know much about it myself, so I asked my grandmother about it this morning. Oishi-san took out the notepad that was stuffed into his breast pocket. Turns out that Hinamizawa used to be called Onigafuchi, or Ogre's Abyss. Onigafuchi? That's quite the name. The name is still around. The marsh where the Shinto priest's wife drowned herself is still called Ogre's Abyss. It's said that the depths of that marsh connect to the realm of demons. Of course, nobody had told me anything about such an ominous marsh. And you see, it appears they were both feared and revered. A respect born of fear. I guess you could say it was kind of a defecation. De defecation? Whatever. A village of inhuman creatures. Seems the demons were Senin or mountain-dwelling mystics of sorts, taking villagers with incurable illnesses into the ogre's abyss and healing them, for example. Even if we're calling them demons, Tengu long-nosed goblins or Senin would be a more apt description. They don't seem like such terrible people, even though they were called demons. But they were still man-eating demons, according to the story my grandma told me. As payment for treating the son's illness, let us eat the mother who brought him here, was apparently how things went. The price of curing her son was herself? That's unsettling. Of course, the mother took her son and ran. Then, you see, all the people who lived in Onigafuchi, the demons chased them down, rounded them up, and captured them. The entire village, apparently. That's quite a frightening thing to imagine. In the end, it seems both the mother and son were caught and eaten. The end. There's a problem with this story. Both the witnesses in this story were eaten, so nobody would be able to tell the tale. Huh? Wahaha. There are plenty of old fables like this. I'm gonna adjust my chair. In contrast to the ghastly tale, Uishi-san laughed heartily while sipping his coffee. But, well, there are quite a few other tales. Where the demons from... Hold on. Excuse me. from Onigofuchi band together and captured their prey. I recalled that Mion said all the villagers united and fought against the dam construction. I saw similarities with how that part about the unification overlapped. Normally, they hunted down a single person, and they chose who it was going to be beforehand. Huh? That caught my attention. Oishi-sen also appeared to be pondering what it meant. My grandmother told me that you must never interfere with the demon's hunt. You should just hole up in your house and hide under the covers, she said. So what does this all mean? It means you mustn't ever help or protect the prey. As long as you didn't disturb the demon's hunt, no harm will fall upon the villagers. It seems there's that kind of rule. Basically, don't help the victims. Pretend you didn't see the atrocities. In other words, what happens if you break the rule? Well, they're man-eating demons after all. Many parts of that tale caught my attention. Parts of the story he told me overlapped with his theory that the perpetrators were all the village families. Even if it wasn't the whole village, it was conceivable that the villagers were hiding under the covers and leaving them to die, when there's a group that was on their hunt, wasn't it? I didn't dare speak it. Then, Oishi-san, I guess it looks like it's either the village families or a group of villagers perpetrating the crimes. Why did I say it like that? What do you think, my bar-san? Ah, excuse me. Another cup of coffee, please. That's what I wanted to know. It seemed that we were both waiting for the other to say that last part. That food looks good, dude. I waited for the waitress to finish pouring coffee before speaking. Last year, I had a nagging feeling when Satoshi-kun disappeared. Oishi-san muttered as he watched the milk swirl around his coffee. So those friends of Satoshi-san, meaning your group of friends, my bra-san, I had a bit, really just a little bit, okay, of background checking done on them. If Oishi-san said this to me before, I would have been furious, since he told me earlier not to suspect my friends. But as I was now, I couldn't. This might sound pretty stupid, my Bara-san. If you feel it's stupid, please say so. I'll just stop. Oishi-san was wearing the most serious expression that I'd ever seen from him. It was as if he was telling me to prepare myself and listen. There were quite a few things I regretted hearing from Oishi-san, but none of them were as threatening as this. A little voice inside me was screaming like an alarm. Stop, Keiichi. This was probably the last one. I took a deep breath and silenced that voice. I would not run from the truth. Please. That was all I could utter. Oishi-san stared into my eyes silently for a few moments. After he was certain I was ready, he began. The victim of the incident in the first year was the overseer. A few weeks prior, he had an altercation with Mion Sonozaki-san. Multiple altercations. Oishi-san had said that before, Mion had defied the dam project vehemently. Well, it wasn't hard to imagine how she'd be if she got worked up. In the second year, the married couple who supported the dam project died in that accident, right? They had a daughter. Her name is Satoko Hojo-san. Huh? Satoko meaning Satoko? Oishi-san told me that Oishi-san's look told me that my voice was too loud. I realized it as well, and quickly quieted down. The Shinto priest and his wife who died in the third year, you see, their daughter is Rika Furude-san. Rika-chan was the housewife who died in the fourth year, you know already, don't you? It was the step-aunt of Satoko Hojo-san. She was in her aunt and uncle's custody, and she had lost both her parents in the accident. She lived in the victim's house. I could tell my lips were getting dry. I didn't even have the wits to keep my mouth from hanging agape. I had thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident, one that I could easily distance myself from. But clicking and clacking, it had snuck all the way to my feet. The one who disappeared the fourth year, by the way, he was Satoko-chan's older brother. What? Wait, just a second. It took everything I had to finally say that. I gulped down a glass of water and once again wiped my face with a napkin. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. But Oishi-san was relentless. Instead of waiting for me to finish sorting out my feelings, he started speaking again. The last of the things I shouldn't heard. All of the victims seem to be connected to your group of friends. That has to just be a coincidence. Maibara-san, keep it down. Everyone's looking. Mion? Satoko? Rika? So what if they're connected? You're telling me all of my friends? It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Oh, Reina is different, isn't she? Reina isn't connected with the victims at all. Reina Ryugu was living in a suburb of Ibaraki Prefecture up until last year. Well, it's true she hadn't directly met any of the victims. I'm gonna adjust my chair. Give me a second. Alright, sorry. He said it in a roundabout way. Is he saying she's also connected? Actually, I looked into her. Before Ryugu-san moved away to Hinamizawa, she was suspended from school. It seems she went through her school building and broke all of the windows. Reina did that? She broke all the windows at her school? That same silly Reina had? I couldn't even imagine it. It seems that after her 3-day suspension, she didn't return to school. She went to her neurologist and was diagnosed with dysautonomia. She was given weeks of counseling and medication. I'm going to take a drink. Excuse me. I wonder if it was something like a nervous breakdown. I'd heard that happens to people who are really methodical or overly sensitive. Neither of those matched Reina's easygoing personality. And in the counselor's medical report, he recorded all the conversations he had with Reina-san. It shows up, and quite a bit of that. What did? I pressed forward carelessly. There couldn't be anything more for me to regret. She mentioned the word Oyashiro-sama. It felt like someone's stone-cold hand was caressing my back. Why? Why had Reina spoken of Oyashiro-sama before she even came to Hinamizawa? Seems that the Oyashiro-sama she spoke of was like a ghost, appearing in her house every night, standing over her pillow, looking down at her. My mind froze. I couldn't process what I was being told. After that, she moved to Hinamizawa. Oh, that's right. She's not an outsider. Huh? According to their residency register, the Ryugu family used to reside in Hinamizawa. Reina-san moved to Ibaraki right after she finished elementary school. My mind went completely blank. It was similar to the static you'd see on a blank TV channel. My ears began ringing as I lost all sense of comprehension. Maibara-san, are you alright? Should we stop? Those words brought me back. I couldn't let it end here. Now I understand, Reina. Then how about the last victim? Toмотaki-san. Who is he connected with? Irritated, I let out one final reprisal. All of them. Have you forgotten, Maibara-san? Didn't you spend the night of the festival together quite merrily? I'm gonna take another drink. Excuse me. Quite a few of the officers saw you enjoying yourselves. Now there was nothing I could respond with. I fell silent as my brain turned to mush. We should get going. Maibara-san, did you take your afternoon medicine? I had completely forgot about the medicine I had gotten today until Oishi-san said that. I got another glass of water, and we left the shop after I chugged it down. We got in the car and returned to Hinamizawa via the rough road. I never really paid attention when I was on my bike, but did cars normally shake this much? It was almost as if the road was desperately trying to tell me something. Badump. That big jolt was from the difference in elevation of the dirt road when it changed to cement. Or from cement to dirt, my bad. I was certain that I heard Toмотaki-san scream. I sat in silence, just letting myself be shaken by the car. I'll drop you off at your house. You missed school because you were ill, correct? My apologies for the long conversation. Why did you talk to me? I blurted out the question. Really, just blurted it out. I didn't expect an answer. I did check with you first, didn't I? Excuse me. If we should just stop. Not that. Why did you reach out to me? Excuse me. I understood quite well excuse me, that Oishi-san was investigating this string of suspicious incidents. But Why was he telling me all this? I knew nothing and I couldn't help. Everything Oishi-sen spoke of was news to me. First of all, what could I, having just moved here, know? By chance, if there was a reason for Oishi-san to reach out to me, then it would have to be that I looked suspicious to Oishi-san, as I was part of Mion's circle of friends. I'm retiring this year. I plan on moving away oh my gosh, after retiring as my grandma once. So while I'm still on the case, I want to bring truth behind this incident to light. So, Oishi-san, you suspect them, don't you? All of them. Oishi-san didn't really give a response. It felt a little late, but I thought it was his way of showing a bit of consideration for my feelings. This is mostly my intuition from 30 years on this job. Maibara-san, you're the one in danger. Huh? I wanted to reply with, that was absurd, but in my downtrodden state, I couldn't bring myself to say it. I'll be retiring this year, so I won't be at the Watanagashi next year. So I want to settle things. In other words, he was insinuating that on the next Watanagashi, I might be the victim. I've been warned by the chief as well. Each incident in the string of cases has been solved, so don't bring it up again. Or so I was told. This is the pressure I'm facing. Pressure from what? Someone in Nomizawa? We've arrived. Is this fine? After some time, the car finally reached the path to my house. The clock read 2 p.m. I was surprised to see so much little time had passed since we ate. It was hot outside the car. The chirping of the Higurashi hurt my ears. I won't mind if you just forget everything I told you today, but I'm still going to keep investigating. I'll end Yoshiro-sama's curse this year. So you're saying I should contact you if anything happens? It's fine. Just contact me when you feel you have to, my bro-san. I wasn't collected enough to understand Oishi-sen's roundabout way of saying it. Be sure to take it easy. I'm sorry for throwing all this at you while you're taking the day off because you're sick. I didn't really give any sort of response. I'll always be on your side. If anything, believe that. I'll be off now. The tires crunched over the dirt road as the car made a U-turn and disappeared into a cloud of kicked-up dust. It felt like I was watching a boat only throw me a lifesaver in shark-infested waters before disappearing into the distance. That was the first time I thought Oishi-san was being unfair, telling me I was going to be the next victim, then just saying to contact him if something happened. This wasn't a criminal investigation. He was fishing, and I was just the bait dangling off the line. Would the fish be the perpetrator? Or was it just Yashiro-sama's curse? Either way, the bait would be swallowed whole. Damn it, I don't want to die. For some time, I could do nothing but stare at the puddle of water left behind the AC from the car. Why is my Face ID working? Not working, excuse me. Alright. I wonder how much time has passed since I laid down. It was getting dark outside. My body was soaked in sweat. It would probably be a good idea to change my sheets. At that moment, the phone downstairs rang. It was probably Mom. Mom was quite the worrywart. Maybe she had called many times, but I just didn't notice it. Hello, this is the Mybar residence. Oh, he's alive. Hello. This is Mion. How you doing? Is this one of Keiichi's friends? Keiichi is resting now, but shall I put him on? Huh? Is this his dad? Sorry. Idiot. You fell for it. Huh? Keiichi-san? After our exchange, we both had a good laugh together. Except I was suspicious of her even as we were laughing. Was everybody really involved in the incidents? The fact that I couldn't say no saddened me. I'm relieved that you seem well. Raina was really worried, you know. Satoko-chan was happy and said you got what you deserved. Rika-chan said, how unfortunate he's sick. Excuse my chair. Huh, looks like everyone was making a big deal out of it. Well, you know. So, Kei-chan, is now a bad time to come pay you a visit? A visit? No, it's okay. It's not like I'm dying. My grandma made a ton of mochi, you see. I was told to share them. So I'll bring you some. Hey now, you'll catch my cold. Not to worry. Both Reina and I are too stupid to catch a cold. See ya. Be there in a bit. She hung up cheerfully. Reina's coming too? That's what it sounded like. I was still concerned about meeting Reina, but I guess if she was with Mion. My leg is asleep. I heard the doorbell 10 minutes later. How are you feeling? Did you take your medicine and rest? I did just that. Thank goodness you look well. I was worried. Sorry, I'll be fine by tomorrow. Mion showed a complete lack of concern for someone who's recovering, and Reina looked like she was worried about me from the bottom of her heart. They didn't look like there was anything behind those expressions. I thought we might have... Oh my gosh, I cannot read. I thought we might hang out for a bit, but it looks like you're not quite in the condition for it. Hmm? You don't say. It seemed that my face appeared a bit sullen. Then here, Keiichi-kun. These are the mochi Mise-chan's grandma made. Reina-chan held out the package wrapped in newspaper. There might be about 5 in here. It was quite hefty. Ah, thanks. Send my regards to your grandma, Mion. Yep. Ah, there's one that I made in there as well. Wonder if Keiichi-kun can guess which one. This is Kei-chan's homework since he missed the club meeting today. There are letters on each mochi, so I'll ask you tomorrow. Were you checking if I was feeling better, or did you just come here for club activities? Yep, looking fine. Guess I'll be able to make it tomorrow. Man, what are you gonna do if my fever comes back because of your shenanigans? Mi-chan, we shouldn't be making such a racket. Let's go. The other people here will get angry. Both of them thought my parents were home. It was because the entranceway was a mess. You're right. Let's get going. Ah, by the way, Kei-chan. Yeah? What did you eat for lunch? The sudden question startled me, and I went wide-eyed when I saw Mion. I had never seen her like that. It was a highly unsettling visage. But why is she asking me what I had for lunch? What she said was so inane, it was almost meaningless. The way she said it was almost like she didn't even care at all about what I ate. I ate out. She must have suspected that I was with Oishi-san. Anyway, I felt that as if I hesitated or tried to change the subject, then they'd read too deep into it. So I tried answering as quickly as possible. Except, contrary to the efforts I'd made, there was a pause before they replied. So you ate out for lunch, Keiichi-kun. The glimmer from Reina's eyes changed at some point as well. It was now sharp, as if to make me feel... Oh my gosh. As if to make me feel the feigned ignorance behind her words even more. As if she already knew. That's how it looked to me. Well, was it good? Why are you asking me this? Mion was speaking in an unusually low tone, almost as if she knew that I had eaten at the restaurant in town. No, I'm overthinking this. I mean, both of them should have been in school at lunchtime. There was no way they could have known where I was. Seems with you... Oh my gosh, I'm ruining the mood. Seems you were with a rather austere-looking older guy. Who was he? Flop. The package with the mochi I was holding slipped out of my hands. I could tell the blood had drained from my face, making me go pale. Oh? Keiichi-kun. Who was he? Could it be the person from before, I wonder? I could feel the back of my throat going dry. This was no longer a bluff. They knew everything? How do you know that? It took everything I had to finally force those words from my throat. My knees were shaking. Because there's nothing this old man doesn't know. Mion sneered knowingly, and her laugh seemed to carry on forever. So, Kei-chan, what did you talk about? It seems like you got pretty worked up over it, too. We weren't talking about you guys. It didn't have anything to do with you or Reina. Hmm? Isn't it a bit strange to hear our names come up even though nobody asked about that? Reina's unwavering gaze pierced through my eyes and peered further inside me. I dug my own grave. My heart was throbbing so much it felt like it was going to explode. Well, whatever you're trying to hide, this old man already sees through it all. Remember that. I couldn't even shake my head. It took everything I had to stop my teeth from chattering. She never let her gaze break from mine, even as she tilted her head slightly. Keiichi-kun, you don't look so good. I think you should lie down. That's true. We should both head back home. As if nothing had happened, they both giggled at each other and started making their way out. I hadn't moved a muscle since I dropped the package of mochi. As they left, the doors slowly closed behind them. All I could do was stare, as if I couldn't move until the door was completely closed. Just as the door was about to be closed, it opened again slightly with a sudden creak, sending my heart racing once again. A single eye peered in through the narrow slit, and Mion's hawkish gaze peered at me once again. See ya, Kei-chan. Yeah, I'd hate it if you miss school tomorrow, alright? Thud. The door closed. I wasn't able to move a muscle even after their low laughter died off into the distance and silence once again enveloped the room. Coming back to my senses, the first thing I did was lock the door. They knew what Oishi... Oh my, I'm sorry, I'm ruining the mood. They knew what Oishi-san and I talked about? Why? How? No, that wasn't important. Thinking about it now, all of it could have been overheard. From the beginning when Oishi-san met me, just as Mion said, I couldn't hide anything. Then what were they trying to tell me? That part was obvious. They were warning me not to say anything unnecessary. What did they deem unnecessary? I only talked about with Oishi-san about one thing, and they were warning me that that was unnecessary. What was it that Oishi-san talked to me about? The incidents involving Oyashiro-sama's curse that occurred every year weren't individual cases, but were connected as a whole, as well as the fact that there may be multiple perpetrators hidden within Hinamizawa. No, more precisely, that Mion, Reina, Satoko, and Rika were all suspicious. Is that what they were warning me against? What kind of nonsense am I thinking about? I hit my own face hard enough that it let out a slap. If only that would wake me from this nightmare. But for some reason it felt like I was punching a blanket. It was almost laughably painless. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. When did I become such a pessimist? Calm down, calm down. Settle down and sort things out. The reason Mion knew I was eating lunch with Oishi-san was probably because somebody from Hinamizawa just happened to be there at the time. They must have told Mion that I was there. That made the most sense. Plus, come to think of it, she didn't ask me where I ate lunch, did she? I'm gonna clear my throat. She only asked, was it good? They were just curious since I was together with someone not from Hinamizawa. It's not as if they had any ulterior motives. That's it. That has to be it. Thinking about it that way, it was the same with Reina. I was just being strangely ambiguous about when I met with Oishi-san, and Reina was just correcting me on that. That's when I was bewildered by the change in character from the usual mild-mannered Reina, and was just startled by it. That's the most natural way of thinking about it. It felt like my mind was mixed up in a tangled mess of spaghetti. Deep red marinara sauce would have poured out of my nose and ears if you squeezed my head. Thinking that, I suddenly felt like vomiting. I really didn't want that to happen, so I stopped holding my head. Lately, I had no idea what anyone was saying. Spending time with them was fun. It didn't feel like there was any sort of hidden agenda. I really do think that they're a good bunch of people. When I just moved here, they couldn't make heads or tails of everything. They were really kind to me. Wayne was really kind and always looked after me. As long as that strange affliction didn't rear its ugly head, she was pretty cute. Mion is also a really good person. She didn't care about anyone's age or gender, and she was optimistic and outgoing. I was never bored when I was with her. And talking of not getting bored, rambunctious Satoko was a good person for that too. She was pretty bratty, but that was just the way she interacted with others. Rika-chan was the same way. She didn't speak often, but that didn't mean she was always silent. They're my friends. But after hearing the better untold secrets of Hinamizawa from Oishi-san and Toмотaki-san, when I was told about Oyashiro-sama's curse, things started going crazy. I'm gonna clear my throat. Then hearing from Oishi-san that Mion, Reina, and Satoko and Rika-chan were all suspicious. After that, everyone changed. That's right. It all started getting weird after Oishi-san told me all that strange stuff. And at that time, I really should have just not listened to those weird stories. And I even shouldn't have heard about those past incidents from Toмотaki-san the night of the Watanagashi. If I just hadn't gotten that strange sense of curiosity. If I just hadn't. That's right. So that's why they killed Toмотaki-san. That impudent outsider speaking to the likes of me after everybody went out of their way to keep it a secret from me. They'll probably kill Oishi-san as well, for trying to utter what everybody was warning me about left unburied. Besides that, he was unforgivable for spewing words that made me doubt the others. Of course a guy like that is going to be killed. But Toмотaki-san and Oishi-san were nothing but outsiders after all. They were entities who couldn't coexist with the people of Hinamizawa. Those guys should have just fall to Oyashiro-sama's curse and die. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault for not being able to hold back my curiosity. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. I settled into a daze. It was a lethargic feeling like I had just gotten up, but the ominous chill that haunted me had subsided. I was fine now. I was no longer frightened. I had completely recovered. I'll go to school tomorrow, right as rain. I'll greet everyone. I'll take part in club activities. It'll definitely be fun. It had to be fun. I was one of them, after all. Oh, that reminded me. I needed to eat those mochi. I hope I'm able to tell which one Reina made. I remembered the homework the two brought with them when they visited me. But wow, our club did delivery. That was something else. I picked up the package I dropped on the floor and headed to the living room. It would be nice, I guess, to have some tea with it. To fill my mouth with mochi while drinking tea. Oh, this was quite a delectable situation I was in. Opening up the newspaper wrapping, there were 5 plump red bean paste mochi fit snugly inside. There were letters written from left to right in the newspaper A, B, C, D, and E. Now then, they said Reina made which one of these. I wonder which one. There wasn't much different in how they looked. They smelled and appeared about the same. This was a pretty difficult problem. The biggest difference was probably their shape. I wasn't sure what kind of person Mio's grandma was, but Reina's had to be different from hers. Looking carefully, I could see one mochi that was made very neatly. So well that, just by staring at it, one could tell it stood out. Looks like this challenge depends on whether or not this one is Reina's. Calm down and think even harder. Mion's grandma, oh my gosh. Mion said her grandma made a ton of them and I was told to give some out, if I remember correctly. So that meant that 4 of these were from that large batch. Then what about Reina? She probably only made one. She probably spent quite a bit of time on it. Meaning the one Reina made was this one. E. For a moment, I thought it may have been a trap Mion laid as she knew I'd pick up on it. But that probably wasn't the case. I wouldn't be so sure if I knew Mion had made it. But since she said Reina made it, it probably wasn't a trap. Alright, my tea is ready too. I'll start with the defending champ, Mion's grandma. Let's see. Not bad. The smooth bean paste and soft chewy texture left little to be desired. The tea I drank afterwards also accentuated the experience. This was an exquisite piece of work. Now, how about Reina's? The creation was so delicate, one would think it was a high-class Japanese dessert. Since I normally had the appetite, I was slightly worried about the size of the portion. But, well, first, a bite. This was quite a difficult one to judge, actually. The ingredients were exactly the same, so there was little difference in flavor. What was different? How What was different was how it was shaped at the end, so it was to be expected. So the deciding factors would be presentation and volume. The well-formed and well-sized champion versus Reina the challenger, with the size you just couldn't get enough of. I'd only had one bite of Reina's. I would probably have to wait until after I was done eating to make my decision. Maybe there was something inside that could cause an upset. Choo choo. Hmm, seems my prediction was right. My tongue touched something. It didn't feel like something edible, so I reached in with my fingers and grabbed it. What? What was this? Before I could fully comprehend what it was, I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast as I could. I slammed it against the wall, causing the bean jam to splatter. Then, after sticking for a moment, it slid down to the floor. I was dumbstruck by my own actions. What was I doing? Reina had gone out of her way to make it for me. How could I? Dumbstruck, I looked down at the hand that had performed such a vile act. Then I remembered what I had taken out of my mouth. At first I thought it was a hair. Even though it was shorter than Mion's, Reina's hair was still quite long. And this wasn't short. It was also a bit too hard to be hair. It was thick enough to roll around on my tongue. There was a bit of metallic sheen on one end, and yes, there was a hole for where the thread goes through, like it was a sewing needle. Yes, that's right. It looked very much like a sewing needle. Exactly like one. The end was pointed as well, quite sharply. It really did look just like a sewing needle. Huh? What did I mean by looked very much like a sewing needle just a bit ago? I couldn't answer, but a voice inside me already knew, and let me know by chattering my molars together. I couldn't stave off the terror welling up inside me. Suddenly, I tasted something metallic and felt a prickling pain at the back of my throat. I felt a sweet. Oh my gosh. I stuck my finger in the back of my mouth and felt around to see if I was bleeding. Suddenly, I felt the urge of vomit. The sharp taste of bile irritated the back of my throat. I clasped both hands over my mouth, and after writhing in agony, I was somehow able to hold back the nausea. I was finally able to breathe normally again, but this time my heart was intensely throbbing. Then, it finally registered. Exactly what was mixed in with the mochi. Before I could think of the correct word, my hands were already on the move. I tossed the rest of the mochi against the wall. The geometrical patterns of the scattered bean jam on the wall suddenly invoked a terrible omen in my mind. After looking away, I dashed out the hall and flew upstairs to my room where I stayed under my covers until morning. I clutched my own shoulders, howling madly in a mix of fear, anger, sadness, and frustration. This wasn't a threat or a warning or a reminder. Nothing as simple as that. What had happened in Hinamizawa? What is happening in Hinamizawa? What would happen? I didn't know the answer to any of those questions. Where did I break a taboo? Regardless, now Reina, Mion, and the others, they considered me an enemy, and they thought I should just die. I won't let you kill me, not for such a pointless reason. I fell into a restless sleep as I was crushed by my negative emotions. It was as if I was being drawn into a bittering, bottomless marsh. What's a medicine that makes you commit suicide? Threat. All right, so we're gonna save. I'm gonna check my recording time real quick. Let's just go ahead and do the next chapter. It's getting good. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of muffled footsteps stopped in front of my door. A moment of silence, as if whomever they belonged to was ascertaining if I was inside. Of all the things I should have been doing, I continued on with my restless slumber. I was very much conscious, but my body hadn't caught up yet. Even with danger bearing down on me from just beyond the door, it was as if I was completely paralyzed, unable to move. Without a doubt, this was sheer terror. Please, just leave. Hey, why isn't my body awake yet? If they came into my room right now, then... Was I punched? Ah! Eek! I sprang to my feet and threw my covers at my mom, who was opening my door. Whoa! Keiichi! What's the matter? Sorry. I was still half asleep. I thought it was still 1 or 2 a.m., but the morning sun was already streaming through the gap between the curtains. It felt nothing like morning. Yesterday, I must have fallen asleep right after that. Excuse me, I was drinking. Then I should have gotten a full 10 hours of rest. But it didn't feel like that at all. My internal clock was completely screwed up and my sense of balance felt off. I felt feverish enough that it was clear to me that I was still not well. Well, Keiichi, how are you feeling? Can you make it to school? I was well enough to go, but I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I was still plagued from the terror with yesterday. If I had swallowed that needle, what would have happened? Excuse my chair. Or what if it had pierced my tongue? There was undoubtedly a murderous intent, but I don't think that's all it was. If they really wanted to kill me, then there were other, more certain ways to do it. They wouldn't resort to such a dubious method as having me swallow a needle. Meaning, I didn't want to believe it, but going that far was just a threat from Reina and Mion. Aren't you glad you didn't die? But next time we'll use a more assured method. Like that. Something like sending a letter with a razor inside would have been a joke compared to this. Did you make it to the hospital? Sorry, somebody knocked on my door. Did you take your medicine? Yeah, kinda. I didn't want it to be turned off. Sorry, I'm talking to my fan. Something about my mom's dubious gaze bothered me. She seemed more concerned about her son missing 2 days of school rather than him being sick. It was definitely mental fatigue. I skipped that on accident. I wasn't really physically ill. It'd be hard for you to get back on track once your daily routine is thrown off. Come on, get up. They say wellness is a state of mind. I'd heard that line many times before. I was given an award in elementary school for having perfect attendance, but it wasn't like I was healthier than everyone. Come on, go wash your face. Breakfast is already ready. There isn't much time before Reina-chan comes and gets you. Mom's tone meant I couldn't argue about it, so I had to give up on skipping a second day. By the way, were you the one who got base paste all over the living room wall, Keiichi? You shouldn't do something like that. Let's take a drink. Your father was quite angry. I didn't feel particularly guilty for doing it, so I didn't have much of a reaction. Also, Mom didn't question me any further about it. She headed back downstairs after she was certain I was getting up. What Mion said as she left yesterday, I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow, came back and dwelled in the back of my head. What did she mean by that? I didn't even really have to think about it. She was saying don't be absent. Taking that a bit further, it was as the same it was the same as her saying I should just go about living my life as if nothing happened. If I showed any signs of acting unusual, it would probably result in them making their move. For example, maybe I shouldn't pay attention to someone like Oishi-san enticing me with something unusual, meaning if I didn't watch my mouth or did anything differently from the norm. In effect, I would end up flagging myself as someone who was not wanted. And it seems that was something the girls didn't intend to forgive. So if I just went along as normal, no harm would come to me. Was that how it was going to be? All that misery I experienced up until yesterday would almost creepily just fade away. It was an enticing deal. Just by forgetting everything I'd seen or heard these last few days, I was able to keep on living like normal. I was drinking, sorry. There's no way such a selfish thing could. I swallowed hard. I once again deliberated on the idea that I had just rejected. Mion was probably a good person who had her friends at heart. She was giving me, who had mistakenly broken some of the rules of theirs, a chance. Was what I did really something so unforgivable? But Mion had given me another chance. She was saying if I'd just forgot everything and kept living on like I had been, I'd be forgiven. Keiichi, your food is going to get cold. Hurry up and get down here. Reina will be here if you don't hurry. I'm coming. I crammed my textbooks into my bag and hastily made my way downstairs. I picked up my somewhat bland breakfast. It seemed that I didn't have much time. It was already past when I usually met up with Reina. Given yesterday's events, she'd probably be here in the next 5 minutes. Let's drink it again. I'm drinking an energy drink. Well, not really, just like a powder mix. I needed to be ready to head to school by then. I had to forget everything that had happened in the past 2 days. Forget it all and return to my normal life. For this to be normal, I'll have to be where I normally meet up with Reina. Today, of all days, the rice was dry and hard to get down. Ding dong! I jumped at the sound and dropped my chopsticks. That chime signaled Reina had arrived. Mom hurried me along. Come on, Reina-chan's already here. Hurry, hurry. My mother's merry smile and my gloomy face were polar opposites. Honestly, I was reluctant to see Reina, who was waiting there on the other side of the door. The Reina on the other side. Was it the Reina I knew? I couldn't keep her waiting. I needed to do things as usual. Morning! An invigorating greeting filtered from across the doorway. I came since Keiichi-kun was a bit late. Will he be okay today, I wonder? The manner in which Reina was concerned was, without a doubt, the Reina I knew. But that was probably only if I reciprocated. Forget everything from yesterday, pretend as though nothing had happened. Excuse my chair. Forget about the gruesome dismemberment. Forget about the mysterious deaths that happened the following years. Forget about the people falling to their death, and the terminal illness and suicide, and the lynching, and the disappearances. Forget it. Forget all of it. Forget that Reina and Mion were scary. Of course, forget it all. Forget about everyone. Forget about the mochi too. Forget, forget, forget. Excuse me. Reina once again asked, to make sure. Can you make it to school? Yeah, I'm fine. Great! Then let's go. Mi-chan is waiting. Reina showed me her usual bright smile. I couldn't find any hint of deceit in her expression. My nervousness dissipated, giving way to relief. But you see, Satoko-chan was so insistent she could do it. As we were walking, Reina talked a lot about different stuff, more so than usual. Then? Satoko-chan is clumsy, so she failed no matter how many times she tried. She was so cute. Everything Reina talked about was just silly nonsense, so I replied every so often and laughed from time to time. It was a rather laid-back conversation. We passed by one of our neighbors and they called out to us. Oh my, Kei-chan and Reina-chan. Aren't you two a bit late today? Mion-chan said she was going on ahead. Uh-oh, did Mi-chan look mad, I wonder? We need to hurry up, Keiichi-kun. As we smiled and parted ways with our neighbor, they turned back towards me and stuck out a tongue. Not expecting that, I couldn't help but crack a smile. Keiichi-kun smiled. Huh? What? Reina stopped and stared at me. I was thinking that you still hadn't recovered from your cold since you seemed down this morning, Keiichi-kun, but now you seem fine. With a grin, she gently poked my cheek. It was a bright, sincere smile. Hey, Keiichi Maibara. How can you still doubt Reina after she shows you a smile like that? Maybe I just had a high fever up until today, and I imagined everything that I had thought happened because I was bedridden and delirious? I really hoped that was the case. If God would grant me just one wish. There's only one thing that I'd wish for. I would want what had happened in the past few days, more specifically, from the night of the Watanagashi up until last night. I wanted all of that to have never happened. I wonder how many times I'd wished for these past few days. As long as Reina kept smiling like this, I think it just might become reality. So I wanted Reina to keep on smiling. Keep on smiling. So, Keiichi-kun, those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? That vain wish of mine was instantly shattered. My heart began palpitating. The relaxed morning mood suddenly became frigid. Reina's smile was the same as usual. Her eyes were as gentle as usual. Those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? Of course, she wasn't asking the question at face value. In other words, Reina was asking, did you get the message? She was probably trying to convey that. Keiichi-kun, I was reluctant to give an answer. Reina stopped walking and stared deeply into my eyes. Don't hesitate, Keiichi, my bro. Reina was acting the same as always, wasn't she? I needed to respond in my usual way. Naturally, of course. But both my throat and mouth had gone dry, and my lips were stuck together. Hurry and answer, Keiichi. Not that much time had passed. I could still keep the conversation going naturally. I had to say something quickly. D. D? Reina playfully mimicked what I said when I finally squeaked something out. Reina's reaction was still normal. It seems there wasn't that long of a pause as I had thought. Somehow I finally squeaked out the rest. Delicious. However, my strained efforts neither sullied nor brightened Reina's expression. For a moment I panicked, thinking I had replied incorrectly. But after a few moments, Reina broke into her usual soft smile and giggled with a joyful voice that seemed to echo through the morning air. Being strung along by that laugh, I couldn't help but laugh as well. I see. So did you eat all of them, I wonder? My timid smile froze again. I'm gonna drink real quick. Did you make it without swallowing the sewing needle? Was that what she was asking? If I had swallowed it, then I wouldn't be here. Nah, I couldn't finish all of them. There's still some left. I was scared out of my wits, but that's how I played it. Huh? What about the homework to see if you could tell which one Reina made? That homework, was it due today? Yeah, it's due today. Michan will get angry. There's probably a penalty game ready for you. We both laughed at each other again. Dude, this drink is so good. What's the flavor? Let me tell you how the flavor of this. Strawberry limeade. Oh, that's pretty good. To a casual observer, it was just a typical morning. If I could just let myself believe, then even I'd think it was just the usual morning routine. But I was certain I wasn't mistaken. There was something unimaginable buried beneath the facade of this giggling Reina. Lies. I recalled that unexpected piercing voice that came, oh, that I hardly believed could come from Reina's mouth. The moment that image crossed my mind, I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. Was it only at that particular time something evil had possessed Reina? No, that was wrong. That was still Reina. Oishi-sen told me, didn't he? Actually, I looked into her. Before Ryugu-sen moved away to Hinamizawa, she was suspended from school. It seems she went through her school building and broke all of the windows. Reina had a disorder that normal people didn't. No matter how pleasantly she smiled, that fact would not change. But I couldn't imagine, even, how she looked as she broke the glass throughout the school. One thing I knew was that it wasn't something spur of the moment. If it was a sudden outburst of anger, then maybe she'd break a pane or two. But she broke all of the windows throughout her school. Just imagine going through your own school breaking windows for the... Oh my gosh, that spooked me. Swinging full force... Yeah, that's good, that got me. Swinging full force at each pane of glass, one after another, paying no heed to the flying shards. Your classmates aghast, unable to move from the sudden turn of events. I wonder where she could have found the most windows lined up in a row. Probably the hallway. It was difficult for me to connect that horrifying image with the Reina smiling at me now. I just had to imagine it. Impossible because it was imaginable. That naive way of thinking no longer worked. The unpleasant piercing sound of shattered glass, the crunching noise as Reyna treads across the broken shards walking towards me. Reyna's classmates going pale as they forget to even breathe. I wondered what they did as Reyna came closer, breaking windows along her path. Did they earnestly try to bring her to her senses by saying something? Or did they jump at her, trying to stop her savagery? Or did they run to the staff room ugh, run to the staff room after being directed there by the teachers? Probably none of those. In the face of that blood-curdling sight, of Reyna busting window after window, undoubtedly all they could do was silently clear a path for her. Dumbfounded, just clearing the path for Reyna to continue. It was far too violent an act for them to seek refuge by looking the other way. That's not to say they were looking the other way. I'm gonna adjust my chair. They were doing the only thing they could to protect themselves. If they had done something differently from the rest, they may have suddenly found themselves at Reyna's new target. What would Reyna have done to whoever attracted her attention? The answer was obvious. She would have undoubtedly acted according to her whims, meaning I would be the next window. Reyna, staring into my eyes, shards of glass crunching and crackling underfoot as she drew closer. I was also drawn into her eyes, paralyzed. I just noticed the menu is moving. Then Reyna struck me with the bat over and over again, like I was one of those windows. I crouched down onto the floor, desperately protecting my head. Reyna didn't care whether it was my head or my back. Zealously, she hits me again and again. What kind of expression was she making as she was doing this over and over again? I peered up to see. Her expression was so indifferent. It was completely unnerving. It's because no matter how many times she struck me, it didn't make as pleasant a sound as the windows. She struck me continuously, over and over again. The sound Reyna didn't want to come out, or wanted didn't come out. Our classmates standing around didn't try to stop her. They didn't want to be the next window. Somebody save me, turning a blind eye unless they were hanging out. But of course, everyone in class scrambled to obtain the highest standardized test scores. They had gained nothing from saving a cramped school tryhard like me. Eventually, there would be a faint sound, similar to when you crack open a walnut, and some sort of reddish-black spray would shoot out. Anyway, it wasn't that Reyna momentarily lost herself in anger. After forcing myself to breathe and calming down my heart, I recalled what Oishi-san told me. And in the counselor's medical report, he recorded all of the conversations he had with Reyna-san. It shows up, and quite a bit at that. What does? She mentioned the word Oyashiro-sama. Following that, Reyna was suspended and had regular examinations at the hospital. Then, as Reyna was undergoing counseling, she said it over and over. Oyashiro-sama. It seemed that the Oyashiro-sama she spoke of was like a ghost, appearing in her house every night, standing over her pillow, looking down at her. That was the only piece of their conversation. That was only a piece of their conversation, so I still couldn't see the big picture. But it was only by no means a happy little conversation. Then what Reyna did? Was she saying that ghastly incident was a result of her being possessed by Oyashiro-sama? Up until now, I didn't want to believe in Oyashiro-sama's curse. That's why I wanted to say the mysterious deaths every year happened because of some sort of conspiracy. Every time I talked with Oishi-san, I was more certain that the deaths were the work of men and not some curse. Except, if it was people perpetrating the incidents, my friends were connected. My friends were somehow deeply connected. If I refused to believe that the curse was real, then I would have to believe that those who acted the kindest to me were deeply involved in the incidents. Why? How? For what reason? Was Reina? Was everybody? Sorry, I was adjusting my mic. It was much more painful and troublesome that it was just. It was much more painful and troublesome than accepting that it was just Oyashiro-sama's curse. In the aftermath, Reina had admitted to her doctor that it was because she was possessed by Oyashiro-sama. I felt a strange sense of relief from that. I'm gonna take a drink because my throat's starting to hurt. So that's how it was. There wasn't a second side to Reina. She did that because she was possessed by something strange like Oyashiro-sama. It wasn't Reina's fault. Oyashiro-sama was the one to blame. I knew this was all backwards, refusing to believe there was a curse. I wanted there to be a human perpetrator. Now that my close friends were the ones under suspicion, I had changed my belief to my own convenience, saying it was Oyashiro-sama's curse to blame. Which was the better choice? Accepting that the curse exists, or that Reina and the rest of them were deeply involved in the string of mysterious deaths? I didn't want to think about it. If I just didn't think about it, I'd be able to continue the same as always. I wanted to believe that, but that was no longer possible. I had received their message. It was pathetic of me to try and bend the meaning to my own convenience, regardless of my opponent being human or curse. I won't let it kill me. As if I would just bend over and give in, for no good reason at all. Cage-kun, you've been making a really weird face. Why, I wonder? Inhaling sharply upon hearing Rena's voice, I came back to my senses. Before I had realized it, we were already at the entrance. Shaking my head a few times, I exorcised all those terrifying thoughts. No matter how you looked at it, there's no way Reina could have done such terrible things. It was like I was trying to duplicate myself. Placate? Boing. As I slid the door open, a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk. Who's texting me? Does my Face ID just not want to work? Like, what's going on? Okay. As I slid the door open, a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head the moment I stepped into the classroom. The chalk dust went into my eyes, inducing a brief moment of agony. Oh ho 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 ho! How befitting for the Trant Keiichi-san. I had to clear my throat, excuse me. Good morning to both of you, Keiichi and Reina. Good morning, Satoko-chan, Rika-chan. Not quite in the mood for it, I didn't really react to Satoko's trap. Satoko braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. Oh, 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 oh. She seemed a bit disappointed as I simply walked by silently. What's this? How discouraging indeed. Keiichi doesn't seem to be back to his usual self yet. Yeah, take it easy on him for today, okay? Suddenly, there was a slap on my shoulder. It hurt a bit. Hey, Kei-chan, did you get enough rest? It was Mion. My mind was full with the stuff about Reina, but Mion was also a party of interest. Remember, Keiichi, that hawkish gaze from yesterday. Yeah, morning. What's with that unenergetic greeting? Did you eat the mochi I brought you? Because I ate them, I'm like this. Those words were itching to be blurted out. I really just didn't have the appetite. I ate a few, but quite a lot were left over. Huh? What about the homework? Do you have an answer for which one was Reina's? I can't believe you forget your homework, H-kun. Ha ha ha. Sheesh. Then we can't help it. Time for your penalty. Flashing a lurid smile, Mion returned to her seat. There was nothing left from our exchange that would cause our classmates to suspect anything was amiss. But of course, anyone listening to our conversations up until this morning wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that, regardless of whatever happened to Keiichi Maibara, no one would ever suspect them. That fact had me terrified. Soon the teacher came. After she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. This free study period was a convenient time to consider where I stood. I gently closed my eyes and pondered the ridiculous position I was in right now. First of all, what I shouldn't forget was how dangerous of a situation I was in. I had fallen out of favor with them. After interacting with Oishi-san multiple times, I could see I was getting closer to the heart of the matter. The warning yesterday with the mochi was a good indicator of that. No, calling it a warning was just my habit of understanding things. I'm gonna clear my throat. It probably had no meaning beyond stunting my progress and buying themselves some time, until they had a method of completely erasing me. They were just biding their time, even though they were keeping me under their thumb with threats. It didn't change the fact that I knew too much. The chilling sensation of my desk made me recall Satoshi Hojo, the boy who was using the seat until last year when he disappeared. Was he also similar to me? Did he learn something he shouldn't have and was erased? Damn! I wouldn't let them get rid of me this easily. Wait, oh. Never. But were they really trying to kill me? I've had these contradictory feelings for a while now. Even though I suspected them, I felt I had to cover for them. With all of their suspicious behavior, a morning like this just made it all seem like an elaborate hoax. No, that's just what I want to believe. Doubting my friends? Covering for them? My life was in danger. Or was it? Actually, I was debating the wrong point. Given my current situation, those points were something that should have been deliberated on a long time ago. But really, Reina and the rest of them, were they actually aiming to kill me? The little voice inside me continued to torment me with these unresolvable trains of thought. Are you an idiot, Keiichi Maibara? The answer should be obvious. But but maybe that sewing needle might have been just an accident, right? How could you screw up and drop a sewing needle into a peach of mochi? The benefit of the doubt can only go so far. Both Reina and Mion had acted and behaved suspiciously, but maybe it was all some sort of misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? It wasn't just suspicious. It was outright ludicrous, right? Reina just corrected me for lying, and Mion only asked me about what I had for lunch. Reina was standing outside the door eavesdropping for a good hour, you know? She was probably just waiting for my phone call to end. For a whole hour outside your room? And is it normal to go home afterwards without saying anything? You heard from Oishi-san, didn't you? About what Reina did at her former school? But at the hospital, she said it was Oyashiro-sama's fault. She... Cut it out, Keiichi Maibara. Don't you realize they're out to kill you? I inadvertently blurted those words out loud. Hearing myself say that so directly left me dumbfounded. Afterwards, I had to look around to check if anyone else had heard it. My little soliloquy cut a little too close to the truth, even though I could feel the murderous intent from Reina and the others. Part of me somewhere was still trying to deny that. This late in the game, such hesitation could be fatal. I knew that. But I was just your average student, a man living his normal, ordinary life. Do you think I could suddenly believe that my friends, who I had been happily laughing together with up until last Sunday, now intended to kill me? Right. You're too soft, Keiichi. This time, I remembered to keep my voice down so I could only hear it. There was one thing I now understood. I was too soft. I didn't completely understand how dangerous Reina and the rest of them were. No, I wasn't trying to understand. I was too soft for not listening to Oishi-san when he was earnestly showing me the heart of the matter. I didn't listen because I was too busy pretending to be dejected. I didn't comprehend it. I was just running away. I didn't comprehend it, so nobody had any notion to try and kill me? I needed to get rid of such naive thoughts. As I made that resolution, I heard the bell signaling the end of the class. So soon. The day was already over. I didn't recall eating lunch or doing anything in class. My friends were putting their desks together in preparation for club activities. Not long ago, I would probably have happily jumped into that circle. My, Kate-san, how rude of you to even think about leaving. The way Satoko spoke was so typical and familiar, it almost physically hurt. Huh? Kate-san, is not is today not a good day, I wonder? And we were going to win big together. Oh, seeing Reina's expression, which said she was really looking forward today, was hard to take. Hey, Keiichi, maybe Oishi-san is just some enormous jerk trying to separate me from the others by lying to me? Slap. Trying to expunge such weak-minded thinking, I slapped myself in the face. Keiichi-kun? Yeah, was Reina really trying to kill me? I wish someone would tell me it was a hoax. I didn't care if it actually was one or not. I just wanted someone to say it was. Yet another weak-willed thought. How did I ever become this naive? I'm gonna take a drink. Excuse me. Are you alright? Does your head hurt? Apparently, that's how my inner dilemma appeared to Reina. You're pale. Can you make it home by yourself? Maybe I should accompany you home, I wonder. No, it's okay. Sorry. I can get home by myself. Just have the meeting without me. Upon hearing that I wasn't going to participate in the club meeting, Mion pouted unhappily. Since Kei-chan was so bent on a revenge match, we were even going to play the deduction games from before too. Kei-chan doesn't have the burning desire for a rematch? How pathetic. I wouldn't fall for some dumb taunt. Without even a real retort, I just grabbed my bag and was about to get up. Someone's hand perched itself gently on my head. Keiichi doesn't seem to be well. How very unfortunate. It was Rinka-chan. She was stretched up as far as she could, doing her best to pat my head with her petite hand. It felt so nice, which made things even harder. Sorry, everybody. See ya, bro, who was texting me during my recording session. And again, my Face ID doesn't want to work. That's all I said as I quickly left the classroom. They said something to me as I was leaving, but I couldn't make it out. I managed to make it all the way to the entrance with that state of mind, took off my shoes, put them on, and went forward. Forward. Harden that heart, Keiichi Maibara. They were, for some unfathomable reason, trying to kill me. They were plotting something dubious, watching my every move. But I couldn't hate them, because weren't they my friends? Part of me lamented my naivete. I don't know how to say that. While another part lamented the fact that I had lost something important by lamenting over it in the first place. It felt like my consciousness was being ripped out of my body. If this is what Oyashiro-sama's curse was like, then it was just too harsh. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, I was wrong for not believing in your curse, but I believed in it now, completely. Your curse does exist. So, seriously, give me a break. I beg you. Come on. Dinner was unusually bland. Sorry, I spaced out for a second. It had no real flavor or aroma. The miso soup that normally tantalized my appetite instead tasted nothing but nothing but boiled water. I'm so sorry, I'm losing it. Dad was eating with us that night. It was a rare occurrence in this household. When he got into his work, he ate and slept on his own schedule. My dad never cared about the time. Since my dad was at the dinner table, it either meant he had just reached a good point to take a break, or he was in a slump. So yeah, he just doesn't understand the motivation creators have. Your partnership was just a verbal agreement, wasn't it? If it's so hard to agree on things, why not just end it? I feel like it's an industry with a lot of back scratching, but when it gets in the way of business, I wasn't able to pick out much of my mom and dad's conversation, but I could tell it wasn't a very pleasant topic. That, of course, made the disgusting food even less appealing. Staring listlessly at the exchange between my parents, my mind wandered off to the same thought process I had going on all day. Friends close to me. No, they used to be friends, but I could no longer trust them. Right now, I was greatly lacking in allies. People I trusted, people I could depend on when push came to shove. They were something I just didn't have. Having one ally would just have been incredibly reassuring in the current hopeless situation I was in. I put down my chopsticks and looked over at my parents, who were still talking about work. The first course of action that came to mind was to tell my parents everything. Currently, there wasn't a single person from Hinamizawa I could trust 100%. That meant the only people I could trust were my parents. But if I told them everything that happened up until now, would they understand? Reina, for example. That neighborly Reina, who was so vigilant in looking after me, came to get me every day, and sometimes brought over a share of what she made. How could I explain that she wanted to kill me? No matter how I explained, it would probably be difficult for anybody to comprehend. I'm gonna take another drink. Excuse me. And my high strung mom would probably drag me off to a psychiatrist in the blink of an eye. Sadly, that was the amount of trust that existed in our relationship. Even if they did come to understand, what could they possibly do? Unless they could uncover the truth, they wouldn't be able to protect me. No, by informing them of these unnecessary things, I'd be putting my parents in danger as well. Considering that the victims in past incidents were often married couples, I couldn't even joke about it. For the entire Maibara family to have an accident or just to vanish into thin air, it was easily possible in Hinamizawa. What was important here was knowing that something unnecessary put you in danger. The most unsettling question was, how did they know that I knew? As long as... Sorry, I had to talk to someone. As long as they didn't know, my parents might not fall victim. That was one way to think about it, I guess. At least it was like that in any case, or in my case. After I found out, things started becoming odd. In other words, it meant the following. As long as my parents didn't know anything, nothing would happen to them. As long as my parents were here, this house would be a safe haven for them. I knew these were just assumptions based on conjecture at the top of conjecture. Wanting this house to be a safe haven, that was the pinnacle of my weak-willed method of thinking. I had to concede that it was not completely safe. It was only safer than the outside. I knew that I couldn't rely on my parents. No, I couldn't risk getting my parents involved. Then the only person who could be an ally would be Oishi-san. Him and him alone. He was the only person who understood the situation I was in. He didn't care so much about my safety, but he was without a doubt passionate about solving this case. It was a bit frustrating. Oishi-san was basically the whole reason I was in on this mess. Now to get out of it, I had to rely on him. Meaning, it was all going according to his devices. It was just my job to look appetizing while bobbing in the waves as bait. Then, when the fish started gathering around, Oishi-san would pull up the big haul. It was slightly infuriating, but even I thought that was the best course of action. So then, what should I do? Patience was the first rule of fishing. One second. Excuse me. Just keep waiting until the fish actually bites. But I wasn't simply bait. There were lots of ways for me to struggle before being devoured. When they struck, I needed to somehow dodge just enough and tag out to Oishi-san. No question it was going to be hard. The timing to bring Oishi-san in would be difficult. He was in the city, not Hinamizawa. So if I phoned him in any moment of need, it would take him about 30 minutes to reach me. So I needed to run away for those 30 minutes. For example, if we set up a rendezvous point for dire situations or something, I'd just have to hide out there until Oishi-san arrived. Okay, I can almost see it now. I was still being chased around in the dark by boogeymen, but now I knew which way to go. I would never have imagined this would be so reassuring. Oh yeah, it would probably be best if I had a concealed weapon for when things got rough. Sorry. Typically, that would call for a switchblade. but that wasn't too reassuring for combat. Also, since it was recognized as a weapon by the public, that wasn't good. Really, when the time comes, a long weapon like a bat would work in my favor. I remember there was a metal bat at school. I could be confident with that when push came to shove. If I pretended like I was practicing my swing, then it wouldn't be suspicious for me to always carry it around. I could go to school early tomorrow and secure it. Just possessing a weapon may be enough to deter them. Also, one more thing: insurance. It could be something like a note or memo. I could write down everything that's happened in a short journal. I'm gonna take another sip. Excuse me. In case I suddenly vanished, the journal would be left behind. With my journal in his possession, Oishi-san should be able to avenge my death. I left my parents engrossed in their conversation about work and went back to my room. Excuse me. I tore out a piece of paper from a notebook and made my way to my desk. Last time I wrote in a journal was for summer homework. I skipped that. In elementary school. Damn. In the off chance something bad happened, the police could use my diary as a lead. So I should only write down the facts. How should I start? I jotted down my thoughts as they came. I, Keiichi Maibara, am in fear for my life. It made me laugh nervously. It was a line that showed up often in detective stories. I never even dreamed that I would be in the type of situation where I'd write it myself. I do not know why they are after my life. Reina and the others were suspicious, but I had no proof, and that's why I couldn't write anything more. I laughed wryly at myself for writing such a passage draped in mystery. Would the police be able to get the hint from reading this enigmatic passage? I could only pray that they would. What I prayed for the most, though, was that this journal never needed to play its part. Here, I laughed nervously. It was too simple, so I wrote down one more line just as I thought of. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Was that too much? I probably shouldn't write more than that. If I wrote any more, it would seem like I was just delusional. In order to appear to the reader that the person who had written this was of sound mind, I chose not to write anything else at that point. I just needed to add more as I learned about the truth. I folded the paper and thought about a place to hide it. By hiding it somewhere obvious, there was the chance that they would uncover it instead. On the other hand, if it was in too obscure of a location, then there was a risk of nobody finding it at all. In the end, I decided to take the clock off my wall and stick my folded note on the back of it with scotch tape. After that, I put the clock back on to its normal position. Yeah, it didn't look like anything was hidden behind it. Now I needed to set it up such that if anything happens to me, my parents could find it. I looked at it from countless different angles until I was satisfied and I made my way downstairs. My parents were still talking about work. It didn't look like it was going to end anytime soon, so I cut in. Sorry to interrupt. I have something I want to talk to you about. I'd never started off a conversation like that before, so my parents were both startled. They stopped talking and turned towards me. What is it, Keiichi? I have a favor to ask of you. Please listen. Just in case, yeah? If it's not urgent, can we do this later? Right now, Mommy and Daddy are having something urgent they're talking about. I didn't think their talk was more urgent than mine. In any case, I stated my request. Just in case, okay? If I die. Both of my parents' eyes went as wide as saucers. If I die, I want you to put the clock on my wall in my coffin. If they did that, then they'd probably find it. My memoir. Both my parents remained wide-eyed, not moving an inch. I couldn't blame them. I made that clock in shop class, and I really like it. So please, what's the matter, Keiichi? Did something happen? Mom was finally able to ask me without a questioning gaze. Of course, this was a normal response for when someone's son suddenly talked about a subject like this. I felt bad about making them worry, but right now I just wanted them to think about the clock in my room. With the awkward mood leaving the room in silence, I decided to go back up to my room. I want to get to school early tomorrow, so I'm going to bed. Good night. Saying only that, I left the living room. I needed to get to school early tomorrow and secure that bat. I should make today the last day I went to school with Reina. As I climbed the stairs, I heard my mom call my name, but I pretended not to hear her. It wasn't something I could talk about with my parents. If I talked about it, it would only make things more dangerous. The fight that had begun was mine and mine alone. I couldn't rely on anybody. I wouldn't be killed, not when I still knew nothing. Is that the end of the chapter? Not feeling so hot. All right. Well, that's two chapters down. I'm going to go ahead and end it. I'm going to save my game. I hope you guys enjoyed. And next episode should be the last. Until then, take it easy.